Hi, this is Professor Favors with the lecture Review Five Simple Sentence Patterns, a recap of prepositional phrases, and the main lecture is on subject verb agreement. So, this is the lecture. The discussion is taken directly from the course text, Fundamentals of College Writing, and let's get into it. So, let's review five simple sentence patterns. You can find this information on pages 29 to 36, which is your main discussion. And this review you can find on pages 41 to 45. So, what is the simple sentence again? It is defined as a sentence that houses a subject and verb and that makes sense without any additional phrases or words. A simple sentence is called an independent clause. So, just remember that a simple sentence can function just fine in terms of grammatical appropriateness with just a subject and a verb. Now, does it make the sentence or the meaning of the sentence complete? No. It just means that the sentence is an independent clause and it is a grammatically correct sentence. So John threw the ball, John ran. Or Tom threw the ball, John ran. Now, we don't know why Tom threw the ball and we don't know why John ran to make the sentence complete. These two sentences are considered independent clauses and make sense apart from adding other words to make it a complete thought. Here are the definitions for elements of a sentence. So the subject is the one performing the action, essentially, the who or what that performs the action. The subject can also be the who or what about which a statement is made. So, for instance, in the second example, who chased the mouse? Okay, well, the statement is about the cat chasing the mouse. It just asks a question. So a verb, a word that shows action or links the subject to verbs that describe or identify it. So the quarterback fumbled the ball. Tony Romo is the Cowboys quarterback. And so, of course, we know that fumbled is in the past tense, but it is still a verb. And that is part of the be verb conjugated. So is, am, are, was, and where. And then we have phrases here, a group of words without a subject and a verb. So on the floor, the red car, muddy feet, flowing water, and then a clause. And so the clause, just pay attention, it is a group of words with the subject and a verb. So you can definitely have an independent clause, but you can also have a fragment that could be part of the clause family. So after the class ends. Now there's a period there, but we don't know what happens after the class ends. And this doesn't have anything to do with this ideal about the thought needing to be complete. It's not even an independent clause. Whereas in the previous example, John threw the ball or Tom fell, those are still considered independent clauses, whether or not the thought or the ideals are complete. When you understand the simple sentence as functioning as an independent clause, it is easier to detect what might be a fragment or dependent clause. So remember that the difference between a dependent clause and an independent clause is that if you look at it in terms of a mother-baby relationship, that the mother can do just fine, function just fine without the baby, because the baby is not an adult, the mother is an adult, and so therefore the mother operates like an independent clause. But the baby needs an adult, whether it's a mother or father or another type of caregiver, in order for it to function, because someone needs to feed the baby, someone needs to change the baby. That's how the dependent clause works. Make sure to pay attention to this because we are about to get into independent dependent clause lessons going forward. So here are your sentence patterns. Remember that there are five. So you have subject verb, compound subject verb, subject compound subject compound verb subject, and then verb compound subject. So look at those examples from the previous audio lesson as well as here. And so then recapping the patterns, the same things that we just outlined, and let's look at some examples before we get into the exercise number 2. So again, the man jogged. The man is the subject of the sentence, and the man is performing the action jogged. The man and his dog jogged. So the man and his dog are considered the subject of the sentence. That's a compound subject with one verb. And then sweet potato pie tastes and smells. So that's a subject with compound verb. And then a Mazda, a Chrysler, and a Volkswagen were in the parking lot. So compound subject. and then verb. And so many of you got this answer wrong. One of my favorite movies is Star Wars. So remember that the verb comes before the subject. So if you are anywhere else in front of this sentence, you are completely away from the main task, which is to identify the verb. So find the verb first. Here's your verb first, is, and then Star Wars. And see, in this example, the verb is coming before the subject. So if you wrote this as just a regular type of sentence, then it would be Star Wars is one of my favorite movies. Now we understand that the subject is coming before the verb. So if you rewrite it, you know that the subject of the sentence is actually Star Wars and not movies. And I noticed that that was an answer that many people chose in their previous quiz. And then the neighbors, singular subject or just subject with compound verb. So cut, weeded, mended, and many of you got this correct. And then he and I ran and swam. So compound subject, compound verb. So let's look at identify the subject and the verb for a minute. And let me be sure of something. Yeah, okay. And so the remake of Greece was very successful. So we understand that the remake is considered the subject of the sentence. And don't pay attention to of Greece. Of Greece would be the prepositional phrase. Look for the verb. So the remake was, okay, and remake is in singular form, and the was is in past tense, but singular form in agreement with the verb. The Supreme Court makes the final decision. So the Supreme Court is your subject of the sentence. This is the subject of the sentence. Okay, and uh, and it is considered a singular subject of the sentence. So then makes would be the actual verb of the sentence, right? And Supreme Court is considered one subject. So if this was just a regular court, just any kind of court without the reference to Supreme Court, then it would still be considered singular, but we wouldn't have to capitalize it because it's considered a proper noun. The fourth Thursday in November is celebrated as Thanksgiving Day. And so sometimes there is a tendency to want to think that the subject is, say, Thanksgiving Day or November, right? But the subject of the sentence is actually Thursday. Thursday is your subject, okay? And then, of course, is in November would be the prepositional phrase, so ignore it when you are trying to determine how to conjugate the verb. So is considered your verb here. And then Jennifer and Cameron, which are compound subject, okay? That's your compound subject. And then like to paint. So that means if it's a plural subject, it's a compound subject, plural subject, then like would be plural um, for this exercise. And then several exchange students from Europe are staying with families. So you have a lot of prepositional phrases here with local families from Europe, right? And then your subject of the sentence is kind of weird because students alone could be just fine, but it's a type of student. And so type of student as an exchange student would actually be the subject of the sentence. And so we know that it's in plural form. Therefore, the verb is going to be in plural form. And then here are your jacket and hat. Remember that the verb comes before the subject, right? Remember that. And you've already had your lesson on here are, here is, there are, there is. And so we understand here's your verb. Okay, this is going to be your verb, and your verb is plural form, so that means that your subject is going to be in plural form, and that is jacket and hat. Okay? All right, so recap prepositions and prepositional phrases. Just understand that it's preposition plus object equal prepositional phrase. So the preposition first locate the preposition, and then the object of the preposition creates a full prepositional phrase. So, and pay attention to prepositions always tell you the location of something. So, at, behind, of, and on, and then the object of the preposition would be home, and so then put them together, pair them together, at home, behind her, of the students, on the table, and that's your prepositional phrase. And then remember, also prepositions tell you where, when, which, and how. And so, where, when, which, how. So, Richland College is located in Dallas, Texas. Our class starts at 9 a.m. The girl in the blue dress is my sister. She dances like a pro. Okay. So let's review subject verb agreement, or actually be introduced to it. So the discussion of subject verb agreement can be found on pages 101 to 103 in the course text. So subjects and verbs must agree in number. This is very important. Pay attention to this. Okay. Subject and verbs must agree in number. If a subject is singular in form, then the verb must be singular. If the subject of the sentence is plural in form, then the verb for that subject must be plural in the same form. So review the following examples. Don't pay attention to the idea of Mexican in the sentence. Look at what the determine whether the subject of the sentence is actually in singular form and or in plural form. Mexican art is considered the whole subject of the sentence, right? It's a type of art. So then it is considered the subject, but we're only talking about um, one particular art, right? You can have different types of art up under one genre of art or one cultural phenomenon of art, but we're talking about Mexican art. If it was, here's your verb plural, I mean, singular. If we were talking about Mexican art pieces of a particular time period, then the verb will be plural. So then we have Mexican holidays. So we understand now it's a type of holiday and it's more than one type of holiday. And so therefore that will be plural. Then your verb is going to be plural. Okay, so keep that in mind. Sometimes we can get confused with American or Mexican or Indian, right? But look at the actual, what is the actual, what is that culture modifying in the sentence, right? How is it? It's almost functioning as an adjective to describe art, but it's also considered the subject of the sentence. So exceptions, there are exceptions to the general rule of subject verb agreement when considering the S at the end of a verb. Here's a general rule first. So Jennifer likes to eat pasta. So Jennifer just has she's considered singular, right? And then likes at the end of the verb. I mean, as the singular verb. Okay. The S on the end of the verb likes is appropriate for this sentence. But there are exceptions when using I, first person I, second person you, first person plural we, and then third person plural, oh, I'm sorry, third person plural we, third person plural they. Okay. So I like chocolate. You need to study. We live in Texas. They want cheesecake for dessert. Okay. So then you wouldn't add an S, you wouldn't add S I likes chocolate, or you wouldn't add you needs to study, or you wouldn't add we lives to in Texas, or they wants cheesecake, right? Is these are your exceptions. Names that end in S are still considered singular subjects for a sentence. So Doris is my sister, James is my brother. The West, the best way to determine when a verb should be singular or plural is to determine the subject of the sentence, determine whether the subject of the sentence is singular or plural, and then you will know what to do with the verb. So then there are further exceptions when it comes to pronouns. A lot of times when we think about everyone, everybody, anyone, anybody, either, neither, we think of them almost in plural form, because if we walked into a room and we say everybody, everybody is in the room, that would somehow, when we say it, it seems like it we are saying it correct, and we are. But when we write it, we immediately want to say everybody are. We want to make it plural. But everyone, everybody, anyone, anybody, somebody, someone, those are considered singular, and we treat them as singular. Okay. So to help you determine which verb to use, concentrate on the body or one in the word. So in anyone, you concentrate on the one. In anybody, you concentrate on the body. And then when confronted with neither, either, and each, think the following. So either one, neither one, each one. So here are some examples. Everybody has a book and pencil. Each of the artist's brushes has a special purpose. So again, we understand that when we look at book and pencil, we want to automatically think plural, right? But we're looking at the subject of the sentence here, and that's a pronoun and it's considered singular. So therefore, the verb has to be singular. Okay. Each of the artists, if you ignore artists of the artist, which would be a prepositional phrase, and just looked at brushes, um, um, it would help you. So here is an example, and then I'm going to write another example. So think of the last sentence as each one of the artist's brushes has purpose. Okay. Now, in removing the prepositional phrase, each, let's see, each artist, let's see, artist's brushes has a special purpose. Here it looks a little weird because artist here could be singular possessive, but it could also be plural possessive. So this will be considered singular possessive, okay, as in adding an apostrophe s to the subject. This could be, if we wrote it as plural, each artist brushes has a special purpose. Now it looks kind of weird. This could be plural possessive, where the apostrophe goes after the s. But now we can tell that that's not going to work, because this should actually be have. So let's rewrite it. Each artist brushes have a special purpose. So plural possessive. Okay. And we know this to be true because if we did an editing check, there's the editing check right there. How? So it can get a little tricky. You have to just take sentence by sentence. All right, so indefinite pronouns. So there are exceptions to the general rule of subject-verb agreement when considering indefinite pronouns. So note the prepositional phrase and then cross it out and then judge the sentence by the subject form. Then you will know how to conjugate the verb. So in indefinite pronouns, some, all. So some of the cake is left, some of the cookies are left, right? Uh, if you remove the prepositional phrases, you will see some cake is left, some cookies are left. So let's just write it and see what it looks like. Some cake is left, right? Some cookies are left, right? And then remember that the subject of the sentence is never part of the prepositional phrase. So look in front of the preposition for the subject. Often the object of the preposition is plural, but the subject of the sentence is singular. So in this case, we have two types of sentences, right? The discovery of those scientists is extremely valuable. The discoveries of those scientists are extremely valuable. So the subject of the sentence is discovery. So that's one type of discovery. Okay, it's in singular form. So then the verb is going to be in plural. But now we have more than one type of discovery. We have discoveries. So that's in plural form. And so therefore the verb is going to be in plural form. Okay. So let's look at some exercises. Use the correct verb based on the subject of the sentence. So Lolita, let's write it. So Lolita, singular, has an expensive pair of sunglasses. Okay. And then remind you of discovery. So one type of discovery. So the discovery of the Egyptian archaeologists interest me, okay, because it's one type of discovery. And then we have the verb subject combo, the verb coming before the subject. So we understand that Diane and Bill are the subject of the sentence. Therefore, and they are a compound subject, plural form. So therefore, we need to make sure that the verb is in plural form. So are Diane and Bill starting a mail order business? Because we understand that the verb comes directly before the subject. Okay. Both my sister, both my sister and my brother live in Mississippi. Okay. Compound subject is my sister and my brother. Okay. Strange as that is. All right, and then everyone, understand that we are treating everyone as singular, so everyone is eligible for the scholarship. Okay, those is already in plural. So these, those, that would be singular. These, those would be plural. So those are the dresses that were hanging in the closet. So those is in plural. Therefore, the dresses is also in plural. Okay. One of these drinks uh, tastes too sour. Okay. Uh, uh, don't pay attention to the actual prepositional phrase. Ignore it and look at it as one tastes too sour. Okay. All of the cats, all of the cats are sleeping. Okay? Because all is in plural. Okay? Um, each of the students has a laptop. Okay? And then we have one that's kind of tricky. Um, it it works like the discovery and discovery. So all of the cake is gone because cake is in singular. Okay. All of the cookies are gone because cookies is in plural. Okay. So understanding the subject first, that will help you to know how to conjugate the verb. So this is a review of 5 simple sentence patterns, a recap on prepositional phrases, and then a little bit of introduction to subject verb agreement.